Good afternoon, everyone. Just before getting started, I want to share with you guys something that happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I was in a plane from Paris to San Francisco, and I was about to meet with my team in the US, and I really thought that I had sent that very important email through. But once I boarded on the plane, I found out that the internet was so bad that my email never went through, and I really needed my team to read that email before I would reach the US. Lucky for me, I was taking United Airlines. That was one of the airlines that provides you with internet in flight. I knew about it, but apparently the guy next to me on the other side of the aisle didn't know about that thing, because when the captain came and said, "You're going to be able to enjoy Wi-Fi during your trip," the guy got all excited about it. And he kept talking with his wife, saying how cool it is to be able to use internet once you are 3,000 feet up in the sky, and how amazing it was that he could still check on Instagram and see the pictures of his friend. If you ask me, I think it's slightly too expensive to use this Wi-Fi just for Instagram, but that's a very different topic here. So I sent my email, I had my dinner, I went to sleep, and when I woke up, maybe 6 or 8 hours later, the guy was still talking about the internet in flight. But he slightly changed the way he was talking about it. He was no longer excited. He was saying how slow it was, and the quality of the video on Instagram could not watch them properly. He was kind of pissed about the quality of the internet in flight. Within 6 to 8 hours, he completely shifted from, "I'm all excited about it," to, "That is crap, I'm not going to use it anymore." This kind of experience is something that happens to us pretty much every day. If you think about your first experience on the internet, the first time you went there and then we told you you are connected to billions of people around the world and you're going to start talking with people in China or in Brazil, that was pretty amazing, that was pretty exciting. Today, you have internet in your pocket and you feel indifferent. You don't really care about it, it's just normal. That's a new standard. Same thing happened with the first time you had a remote control for your car and you could open it or lock it from far away. That was pretty cool. You probably wanted to show to your friend that you were the first guy to have that kind of feature on your car, but today is just normal. You're no longer excited about it. The first time you were in the street and you no longer needed to find a phone booth to make a phone call, but just reach out to your smartphone to do the same thing. You probably were excited that day, but today is just a new standard. This phenomena is what we call hedonic treadmill. That is the fact that we as human beings tend to get very excited about new things, but quickly after we just adapt to it, that becomes a new norm and it's no longer exciting. The reason I'm telling you all that is because this is exactly what happens with your customers every day. Regardless on how hard you're working to get them a new feature, a new service, something very cool they're going to be excited about, sooner or later, this new feature is going to become the new standard. That's the new norm, and they no longer will be excited about that. And with the new Omni-Digital era, this process is getting shorter and shorter. And we tend to be very excited and very indifferent about the same thing in a very short period of time. That is why you really have to catch up with your customers' omni-digital lifestyle, because if you stop surprising them, if you stop trying to catch up with their changing digital habits, sooner or later, your competitors will do much better and you're going to lose this engagement you have with your customers. Now, if I'm looking at this room today, I'm pretty sure that most of you guys hardly use phone for calling your friends, your families anymore, compared to the usage you have of WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, maybe iMessage. 80% of adults, 91% of teenagers today use these new messaging apps to talk with their peers every single day. And there is a very simple reason for that. This is all about convenience. If I want to give a phone call to someone, I assume that I have enough time for the call, that the other person on the other side will have sufficient time to listen to me and will be available at that specific moment. I'm assuming that the signal is going to be good enough, so I probably won't be able to move around, because if I lose a signal, I lose a conversation. I'm also accepting the fact that I can do multiple other things at the same time. While using messaging channels, I send a message based on my agenda, regardless of what the other person is doing. He's going to receive my message sooner or later, respond to me, and I'm going to be able to continue this conversation based on my rules, based on my schedule. That is very important because nowadays we are in an era where we all have omni-digital lifestyle, where we tend to use more and more of these digital channels in our personal life first, but in our professional lives as well. That means that if you look at statistics, you see that the younger generations, they tend to use these digital channels more and more less of the traditional email or phone conversation we used to have. It's all about convenience. And if you tell me today, well, it does not matter because those young guys, they are not the market I'm trying to target. Even if they were not today, you can be sure they are tomorrow. So you have to find a way to catch up with this new generation. But that's not an easy thing. Today, we all have multiple digital identities. You probably have a Facebook account, you might have a Twitter account, maybe you use live chat every now and then, you definitely have an email. We have all these different identities. And the real question is, if your customers, if yourself, if you have an omni-digital lifestyle, if you use all these different solutions, all these different channels, it's extremely important that we, as companies, manage to engage our customers within these channels that they favor. We need to connect with our customers on the digital lifestyle. The problem with what I'm saying is that it's easier said than done. There are major obstacles to jump-starting a proper omni-digital strategy. I'm going to give you the 3 biggest obstacles I can see in every company I've been working with in the past 3 years. The first major obstacle is that we all have multiple digital identities, right? If I walk in a store, I have my personal identity, I have only one, normally. And that's good enough. If you know who I am, you know who I am. The job is done. But in the digital world, the rules are just different because I might very well be John Doe in my daily life, but I will be johndoe@gmail.com on email. Maybe on Instagram, I will be John Doe as well. Maybe on Twitter, I will be Pink Unicorn. You have no idea what is my digital identity, and they don't necessarily all match together. And because your customers have so many different digital identities, it's very difficult to keep track of them. What you used to do in the physical world might not apply in the digital world. Yet what I'm saying here is very important because 89% of your customers feel frustrated when they have to repeat their problem over and over again. And we have all experienced this at some point. You talk to someone on the phone, then they transfer the line to another agent, you have to explain the problem again. Then you call a week later, you have to explain it again because it had not been solved the week before. 72% of these customers are also saying that they expect your customer service representative to know their contact information, to know who they are, because you just don't like to have to identify yourself over and over again. That's extremely frustrating. So that is the first obstacle. If you can find a way to easily identify who are the people you're talking to in this omni-digital world, then you already solved one major problem. But that was just one of the 3 obstacles I was talking about. Obstacle number 2 is about technological silos. Now, pretty much any contact center out there is built around technological silos. It means you're going to have one team for the phone, one team for email, a third one for the live chat, maybe another one for social media, another one for messaging, and so on. And it actually makes sense because if you look at the story behind, you understand that traditionally we had the call team. They had one tool, they had one team, they had specific KPIs, they had a manager on top of them, they had training, and it was working just fine. Then email came along. And what happened is we decided, okay, we're going to build a new team around a new tool with new KPIs, a new manager, and new training. Then there was social media, new tool, new team, new KPIs, new managers, new training. Then you do the same with messaging, you do the same with live chat, and then you keep building these separate silos. Now, while from a historical point of view it completely makes sense, if you look at the business objective, it does not make any sense anymore. Because as a customer, when I reach out to you, I expect that regardless of the channel I'm going to use, I'm going to get the same exact customer experience. Because you are one brand, and there should be one unified brand voice. When you know that a dissatisfied customer will contact you in average through 3 different channels because the customer just expects that one of them is going to be faster than the other, This customer is not going to understand why he gets 3 different responses based on whether he has been contacting you through Facebook, through Twitter, through live chat, through email, through Messenger. As a matter of fact, 58% of your customers feel frustrated when they have inconsistent customer experience across channels. Once again, if I have a problem, I expect your company to have a single answer. But the fact that you have these silos that have been trained differently using different tools, you end up having different answers to similar problems. And that's a major obstacle because you did not have that in the physical world, you tend to have this in the digital world. And you have to figure this out before you can move on with a proper omni-digital strategy. And that leads me to the third obstacle. Any contact center today uses between 8 and 12 different tools, and it makes sense. You have your voice solution, you have your digital solution, you might have your CRM, your BP, your BPM, you might have your BI, you might have any chatbot, website, other tools that are part of your ecosystem, and you need each and every one of them. The question is not, should I replace these tools? The question is, how do I connect them? Because if they are not properly connected to one another, you end up with obsolete information, redundant information, or even worse, lack of information. And your customer service representative, who is always looking for this holy 360 view of the customer where they get the entire information within one window, does not exist if your tools are not connected. But once again, easier said than done. However, that is very important because 42% of your customers, of your customer service representatives, just can't efficiently satisfy your customers simply because the tools are not properly connected, so they don't have the full vision. Once we've seen these 3 obstacles, we need to find ways to go beyond that and satisfy customers, engage with customers in their omni-digital world. So where do you get started? That is where RingCentral Engage actually comes in. We have created an omni-digital platform that allows to connect all, and I really mean all, the digital channels they are around. Whether we're talking about messaging with Facebook Messenger, with WhatsApp, with iMessage, with Viber, with WeChat, and so on. Whether we are talking about in-app messaging, you know, the messaging channel you have within your branded app. If you're using Uber and you have any problem, you start sending a message there. That's what in-app messaging is all about. Whether we're talking about more traditional email or social media with Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, whether we're talking about live chat, communities, forum, reviews platform like Google My Business or Google Play, for instance. The concept is we bring all these channels together and we funnel everything into one unified interface. So what is an omni-digital platform? To put it simply, an omni-digital platform is a platform that turns upside down the organization, the traditional organization of a contact center. You become channel agnostic. Traditionally, if I send a message through Twitter, it's going to be sent to the Twitter team. If the Twitter team does not have the answer, there are 2 solutions. Either they're going to ask internally for some expert to help them out, and then there's going to be a delay in the response, or they're just going to tell your customer, please use a different channel. Call our hotline, send us an email, which is extremely frustrating and adding delays again. With an omni-digital platform, you become channel agnostic, meaning that you don't have a team for Twitter, a team for email, a team for live chat, but you have teams organized around expertise. If you have a billing issue, regardless of the channel, it's being sent automatically to the right billing expert. If you have a technical issue, it's being sent to the technical expert, and so on. With this kind of approach, it's much easier to manage your team. You reduce response time, you increase accuracy, you reduce customer frustration, and it's just so much easier to manage your workforce for a simple reason. If tomorrow you have a bad buzz on Twitter and you have only 2 people managing your Twitter account, you can imagine they're going to be overwhelmed very quickly. But during this same period of time, your email team can't help because they are using a different solution, they had a different training, they have a different manager, a different tool, and so on. If you're using an omni-digital platform, once you get this bad buzz on Twitter, you can tackle it very easily because you just manage your resources across the board because you are channel agnostic. But there are other obvious advantages to an omni-digital platform. You're going to have the same KPIs across the board. And that is incredibly important because today, if you're using different point solutions, you're not going to have the same metrics for live chat and for social. You're not going to have the same way to calculate what customer satisfaction or NPS is all about, whether you are using email, or social media. With an Omni-Digital platform, you just streamline everything so you can start comparing things. You have a live vision of what's happening within your company. You really control your activity, you supervise your team, and you allocate resources the way you need to really satisfy your customers in their Omni-Digital world. So what are the benefits? If I have to summarize what an Omni-Digital platform is all about, it's about satisfying your customers with faster responses, more accuracy, a single brand, unified voice across all different channels, no more inconsistency, and all the channels they need, because at the end of the day, that's what your customers want. They no longer want to fit in the little box you've outlined for them. They want to know that they can contact you according to their own agenda, according to their channel, to their preferred channel. In the same time, an Omni-Digital platform is a way to boost your agent's productivity, because you're no longer going to have idle agents waiting for emails to come through. They're going to be working on multiple channels at the same time. They're going to be way more efficient, and you're going to manage your resources better. But that's also about centralized administration. You no longer need to go in the basement and start playing with the cables, because everything is in the cloud nowadays. And because it's in the cloud, from anywhere, as soon as you have your laptop, you can actually manage your activity, you can control what's happening, and you can improve productivity, customer satisfaction over time. And last but not least, it's all about being part of an ecosystem. As I mentioned earlier, 8 to 12 different tools is the average for any contact center. You have to plug everything together so that the ecosystem actually breathes as one, so that the information flows from one system to the other, and you really have the big picture that you need to satisfy customers across the board. Today at RingCentral Engage, we work with multiple telecommunication companies all around the world, and there is a very simple reason to that. Telcos really understand what it means to have top-notch customer service. There is no industry beside telco that has that high volume of incoming messages. And because it's so difficult to differentiate yourself with your product, because you can't always fight with pricing, at the end of the day, the only differentiator is how do I stand out by offering a much better level of customer service. And once you reach that level, once you understand how to satisfy customers, then you differentiate yourself and you get better market share. And that happens with a proper Omni-Digital strategy. So I just want to end this presentation with 4 steps to starting a proper Omni-Digital strategy so that you guys can probably see how it could work for yourself. Step number 1 of the Omni-Digital strategy is to find out what are the channels favored by your customer. I've been talking about so many different channels, but not all of them are necessarily relevant for your business. Maybe your customers prefer Instagram. Maybe they are all about YouTube. Maybe Messenger is what is very hot for you. You need to find out what are the channels that your customers are using so that you make yourself available for them on these specific channels. Number 2 is about identifying your customers, because they have all these different identities across these channels. And if you can't identify that this is the same person, if you can't get every messages to flow within the same interface, you won't be able to tell that this is the same person. You're going to have to ask him to identify himself, explain his problem over and over again. Identifying your customers in an Omni-Digital world is incredibly important. Number 3, it's about offering the same experience across all channels, because once again, you are one single brand. And customers want to understand why they get different experience across different channels. They expect that you have the same voice regardless of what they decide to use. And the last piece of it is about making sure that you have the global vision of what's happening. Because the only way to control your activity and to make sure that you delight your customers across all these channels we've been talking about is that you have this live vision, not day plus one vision, but this live vision so that you really control everything happening live. I hope that was insightful for everyone. I hope I help you and motivate you to move to a more Omni-Digital world, and I'd be happy to take any questions.